There is a future that you are meant to live. One where you are guided by your own choices and uninterrupted by the echoes of self-limited patterns and bad habits. Today, we are going to review not only these habits that are stifling your progress towards that future, but the necessary habits to replace them with, based on the teachings of our Stoic forefathers. There is a very wise quote by Epictetus from Discourses and Selected Writings that reads, "What aid can we find to combat habit? The opposed habit. So if you like doing something, do it regularly. If you don't like doing something, make a habit of doing something different." As always, remember to subscribe and tell us about your Stoic journey in the comments below. Now, let's get started. Stop wasting your time. For a wise man, any amount of time is enough. As Seneca once proclaimed, it's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Think about that and relate it back to your personal circumstance. You are not using your time wisely. You put so much time and resources into planning that you never seem to be able to even start working towards your goal. Some days, you're far too lazy that you are not even getting up to get started in the first place. Remember that to learn is to act. You learn through action, not enacting the situation in your mind. You only can do what is in your control. Remember that. Instead of haphazardly attempting, getting frustrated by your efforts, break down your task into smaller steps. You cannot simply jump across the river, but you can walk across multiple stepping stones. Whatever your situation is, break it down into these steps and find accomplishment in crossing off these tasks one by one. If you find yourself getting stuck on one part of the endeavor, break down that task into smaller steps, one by one, until you're done. So, don't waste time. Go into each task with multiple steps leading towards your goal to keep yourself on track and accountable. Do not be a perfectionist. This is a direct continuation from the previous habit to overcome. To try to be perfect in everything that you do is ironically to hold back. It is not to have quality over quantity, but to not have quantity at all. To be a perfectionist is to refine in real time and not to improve at a task the more you do it. Firstly, recognize that we are all imperfect beings. To be human is to be in a constant state of making errors, and it is through our mistakes that we learn and grow. It is unreasonable to expect perfection from ourselves, as it is a standard no one can truly achieve. Embrace your humanity and the imperfections that come with it, for it is a part of the natural order of life. Epictetus is not superior to Socrates, but if he is not inferior, this is enough for me. That was by Epictetus, from Book 1 of the Discourses. So, don't be a perfectionist. Instead, complete your tasks to the best of the abilities that you have today, but be in a constant state of taking note of how you might do the task better next time. You must stop complaining. Consider this. The Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius, faced adversities with unwavering resilience. They embraced challenges as opportunities for growth. So, instead of weakly complaining about the difficulties that befall you, confront them with the spirit of a Stoic philosopher. Remember, complaining is the language of victims, and you, my friend, are meant to be a victor in the grand play of existence. Marcus Aurelius once said that everything that happens is either endurable or not. If it's endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining. If it's unendurable, then stop complaining. your destruction will mean its end as well. Do not think that you do not have a reason to complain, but overcome the urge, as complaining is to blame. Complaining is to displace responsibility. Put the responsibility on yourself to fix the problems around you, as you are the only being within your control. So, don't complain. Instead, change what is in your power to change, and recognize when you are wrong in a situation and adapt, for that is how you become a stronger man. Do not live in the past. If you are depressed, you are living in the past. If you are anxious, you are living in the future. If you are at peace, you are living in the present. That was a quote by Lao Tzu. One of the core tenets of Stoicism is to be aware of and to focus on what we can control and let go of those we can't. One area that we don't have control over is what happened in the past. It is not something that we can change, yet it is one of the hardest things for us to let go of. Regrets are a prison of our own making, but we are the ones that hold the key to our escape. Learning how to untangle ourselves from the past can bring us peace and freedom to move more lightly in the present. So do not live in the past. Instead, realize the message behind the reason you keep returning to these times of your life. Think of these memories like parables, with different names and settings. And think of the conclusion to the story and what you can learn and add to your tool belt to use in the present. You must stop fearing change. If you realize that all things change, there is nothing that you will try to hold on to. If you aren't afraid of death, there is nothing you can't achieve. That was a quote by Tao Te Ching. Your fear of change is a shackle that binds you, a self-imposed limitation that obstructs the path to true freedom. Change, my friend, is not an adversary but a constant companion in the journey of life. Consider the words of Epictetus, who proclaimed, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." Change is an external circumstance, an ever-present river that flows, shaping the landscapes it encounters. Your power lies not in halting its course, but in choosing how you navigate its currents. The problem is not change itself, but your resistance to it. Like a stoic oak that withstands the storms, learn to sway with the winds of change, rather than standing rigid and brittle. When you find yourself worrying about these changes, take hold of that feeling and conquer it. Walk directly into the storm and show the storm who is king. So do not fear change. Instead, learn how to accept that you will have to deal with hardships, and that is your responsibility. The more stoic you can find yourself in these trials, the easier it becomes day by day, year by year. Do not compare yourself to others. We tend to think that this is a modern-day phenomenon, but this was a prevalent problem for humans throughout history. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Do not waste the remainder of your life in thoughts about others, for you lose the opportunity of doing something else when you have such thoughts as these." It is the human condition to think about what others, specifically our peers, think about us. What Marcus Aurelius is reminding us here is to forget about others and what they think about us. He says, it is far better to use our attention and mental powers to do something more constructive with our lives, and your logical, rational, and ordinary mind knows this. However, we can always take this opportunity to think of this phenomenon as a tool. What does our subconscious believe our peers are doing right, and we aren't doing well enough? Are you envying how they are starting a family? Perhaps it's time to look for a partner. Are they being offered a promotion? Perhaps we must roll up our sleeves and prove to the authority of our workplace what we are capable of. However, in the same vein of thinking, let it be known that oftentimes these comparisons are superficial and negative. Recognize that we must always be on a journey of self-improvement, being better than who we were yesterday, not who someone else is today. There is no rush to meeting life goals, but there is a drive in all of us to only be satisfied when we are struggling to get up the hill, not daydreaming what may be waiting for us at the mountain's peak. So, don't compare yourself to others. Instead, compare yourself to who you were yesterday and challenge him instead. You must stop obsessing over the future. Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present, was said by Marcus Aurelius. Your obsession with the future is a manifestation of fear, a reluctance to face the uncertainty that lies ahead. But courage is found not in anticipation, but in the fortitude to confront the unfolding moment. The future is beyond your control. Your power lies not in fretting about what is yet to come, but in mastering your response to the ever-present now. As discussed prior, we must only concern ourselves with what is within our control. If tomorrow there is something to be dealt with, all we can do is to prepare our mind and environment to make it easier for ourselves to deal with tomorrow. We cannot control how much traffic will be on the streets tomorrow. But what we can control is planning to leave early to account for if the traffic is heavy. We cannot control if it will be easy to get out of bed, but what we can control is going to bed early to make it more simple. We can control having our belongings in a predictable location. We can control being studied and thus prepared mentally. So, don't obsess over the future. Instead, learn to be prepared, as our mind, body, and immediate environment are the only elements we can control. To not be a materialist. Marcus Aurelius once said, if you can't stop prizing a lot of other things, then you'll never be free. Free, independent, imperturbable, because you'll always be envious and jealous, afraid that people might come and take it all away from you. A mission of a Stoic is to be self-reliant, for our toolbox is our mind that we must keep at the ready at all times. We know not what our opponent, be it a person or the environment itself, will draw to tackle us with. If we found ourselves one day with no electricity, how would we fare? If we found ourselves having to leave it all behind, how much would we miss it? The problem, dear seeker, is not in the appreciation of material comforts, but to be aware of the attachment to these things that transforms them into the arbiter of your happiness and self-worth. Marcus Aurelius urges you to break free from the chains of materialism, for in its grip, you forfeit the independence and imperturbability that define a truly liberated existence. So, do not be attached to material things. Instead, be vigilant in your abilities, as your personal skills may one day have to supplement the absence to your belongings. Stop having unrealistic expectations. We all have certain expectations that things should go a specific way. For some of us, it's holding fixed expectations that our relationships should be exactly as we've imagined. A perfect partner, kids, family, and friends. For others, it's the expectation that we should have it all figured out by now, that your careers should follow a carefully plotted path, or that some special event, wedding, birthday, vacation abroad, should live up what you expect. It's not that expectations are inherently dangerous, but that you are fixating on something out of your control. Positive visualization, setting expectations sky high and fixating on the best case scenario, is not so much a strategy as it is a recipe for failure. More times than not, the outcome will fall short of the best-case scenario. So, stop having unrealistic expectations. Instead, do your best when trying to obtain your goal, and whatever outcome you achieve, learn from it for better results moving forward. In the subject of control, all you can do is learn and adapt. Do not procrastinate. Seneca said that putting things off is the biggest waste of life. It snatches away each day as it comes and denies us the present by promising the future. The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which hangs upon tomorrow and loses today. The whole future lies in uncertainty. Live immediately. In this world, where so much lies beyond our control, the Stoic solution emerges. Commit to a routine you control. By embracing a disciplined schedule, you assert control over your own actions and escape the clutches of procrastination. As Seneca would argue, organize your time, establish principles, and eliminate the faults that detain your spirit. In doing so, you pave the way for focused effort and a life well lived. So, do not procrastinate. Instead, be in the habit of, as soon as you see something that needs to be done, you do it. A sink full of unwashed dishes or a hamper full of unclean laundry doesn't just make for an untidy house, but an untidy mind. The smallest of chores completed frees your mind for the larger tasks and ambitions. You must stop seeking the validation of others. If you are ever tempted to look for outside approval, realize that you have compromised your integrity. If you need a witness, be your own, Epictetus said. Stoic philosophers believe that seeking external validation or approval is a form of external dependence that could lead to anxiety and a lack of control over your life. Humans have a natural desire to seek approval from others. It's a part of our social nature to want to be accepted and validated by those around us. However, in this endeavor, we are being an arm for another's missions. We are not furthering our own lives, but in some times taking us backwards. Living for others' approval leads us away from our true selves and desires, like wearing ill-fitting clothes just to please others. Recall the moments of genuine fulfillment in your life. They likely occurred when you were true to your own values and beliefs, independent of others' expectations. This is the core of authentic living. So, do not pursue the validation of others. Instead, live by your own morals and standards, and if your actions are complementary to the wants of others around you, all the better.